is described by various sages in various Vedic writings. It is especially presented in Vedanta Sutra with all reasoning as to cause and effect.
Text 6 and 7. Mahabhutan ahankaro buddhirvyaktamev cha indriyani dashaikam cha panchachendriya gochara ichhadvesha sukham dukham ichhadvesa sukham dukham sangataschetana driti etat kshetram samasena savikara mudahitam.
The five great elements false ego, intelligence, the unmanifested, the 10 senses, and the mind, the five sense objects, desire, hatred, happiness, distress, the aggregate, the life, symptoms, and convictions, all these are considered in summary to be the field of activities and its interactions.
Text 8 to 12. अमानित्वं मदम्बित्वम् अहिंसा क्षान्तिरार्जवम् आचार्योपासनं शौचं स्थैर्यमात्मा विनिग्रह इन्द्रियार्थेषु वैराग्यम् अहङ्कार एव च जन्म मृति जरा व्याधि दुःख दोषानुदर्शनम् असक्तिनार्भविषङ्ग भविष्यङ्ग पुत्रदार गृहादिषु नित्यं च समचित्व नित्यं समचित्तत्वमिष्टानिष्टोपपत्तिषु मयि चानन्ययोगेन भक्तिर्व्यभिचारिणी विविक्तदेशसेवित्वं मरितर्जनसंसदि आध्यात्मज्ञाननित्यत्वं तत्त्वज्ञानार्थदर्शनम् एतज्ज्ञानमिति प्रोक्तम् अज्ञानं यदतोऽन्यथा.
Humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation of the objects of the sense gratification, absence of false ego, the perception of the evil of birth, death, old age, and disease, detachment, freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home, and the rest, even mindedness amid pleasant and unpleasant events, constant and unalloyed devotion to me, aspiring to live in a solitary place, detachment from the general mass of people, accepting the importance of self realization, and philosophical search for the absolute truth. All these I declare to be knowledge, and besides this, whatever there may be is ignorance.
Text 13. ज्ञेयं यत्तत् प्रवक्ष्यामि यज्ञात्वामृतमृष्यते अनादित्वं परं ब्रह्मं न सन्नात्ता न सत्तन्नासदुच्यते.
I shall now explain the knowable, knowing which you will taste the eternal. Brahman, the spirit, beginningless and subordinate to me, lies beyond the cause and effect of this material world.
Text 14. सर्वतः पाणिपादं तत्सर्वक्षिरो मुख सर्वतः श्रुतिमल्लोके सर्वमावृत्य तिष्ठति.
Everywhere are his hands and legs, his eyes, heads and faces, and he has ears everywhere. In this way, the supersoul exists, pervading everything.
Text 15. सर्वेन्द्रिय गुणाभासं सर्वेन्द्रिय विवर्जितं असक्तं सर्वभूतैव निर्गुणं गुणभोक्ता च.
The supersoul is the original sources of all senses, yet he is without senses. He is unattached, although he is the maintainer of all living beings. He transcends the modes of nature, and at the same time, he is a master of all the modes of material nature.
Text 16. बाहिर्नश्च भूतानाम् अचरं चरमेव च सूक्ष्मत्वात् विज्ञेयं दूरस्थं चान्तिके च तत्.
The supreme truth exists outside and inside of all living beings, the moving and the non moving. Because he is subtle, He is beyond the power of the material senses to see or to know. Although far, far away, he is also near to all.
Text 17. Avibhaktam cha bhuteshu vibhiktimev cha sthitam bhutabharva cha tajjigneyam grasishnu prabhavishnu cha.
Although the supersoul appears to be divided among all beings, he is never divided. He is situated as one. Although he is a maintainer of every living entity, it is to be understood that he devours and develops all.
Text 18. Jyotishamapi tajyotis tamasa parumachyate gnanam gneyam gnanagamyam hridai sarvasya vishistatam.
He is the source of light in all luminous objects. He is beyond the darkness of matter and is unmanifested. He is knowledge. He is the object of knowledge, and he is the goal of knowledge. He is situated in everyone's heart.
Text 19. Iti kshetram tatha gnanam gneyam choktam samasata madbhakta etadvignaya madbhavayopapadyate.
Thus, the field of activities, the body, knowledge, and the knowable have been similarly described by me. Only my devotees can understand this thoroughly and thus attain to my nature.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Prabhuta
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna.
Your Sanskrit it just flows. Thank you so much. And thank you,
Mataji.
Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mataji, for giving me the opportunity. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. All right. Jyoti Mataji, I have given you the recording, right? So you're okay. Can I stop my recording on this side then?
Yes, Hare Krishna Mataji. I'm recording now. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Okay. So let me just share my screen and we will continue. Please let me know if you can see the screen.
Yes,
Yes,
Mataji, we can see the screen, Mataji.
Okay, thank you very much. That's good. All right. Just 1 minute. Okay, so we will continue with our 13th chapter. We'll be doing verse 14 today. And before we start, let's just say our prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vidamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhascha kripa sindhubhaiva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Okay, thank you very much. So we'll continue with our discussion of chapter 13, and today we are going to do verse number 14. But before we go to that, let's just look at the chapter summary. So the first few verses from 1 to 7 were Arjuna's 6 questions that he asked Krishna about the various things like the field of activities, the knower, the knowledge, all of these questions. From verses 8 to 12, then Krishna explains the process of knowledge and liberation. From verses 13 to 19, Krishna explains the object of knowledge. So today what we are going to do is verse 14, which is part of this, where Krishna is explaining the object of knowledge. So we'll recite the verse. Sarvata pani padam tat sarvatokshi shiro mukham sarvata shruti malloke sarvam apratyattishtati. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Everywhere are his hands and legs, his eyes, heads, and faces, and he has ears everywhere. In this way, the Supersoul exists, pervading everything. So could I request somebody to read the purport, please? Any volunteers who would like to read the purport?
Can I read, Mataji?
Yes, Puja Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna. As the sun exists diffusing its unlimited rays, so does the Supersoul or Supreme Personality of Godhead. He exists in his all-pervading form, and in him exist all the individual living entities, beginning from the first great teacher Brahma down to the small ants. There are unlimited heads, legs, hands, and eyes, and unlimited living entities. All are existing in and on the Supersoul. Therefore, Supersoul is all-pervading. The individual soul, however, cannot say that he has his hands, legs, and eyes everywhere. That is not possible. If he thinks that under ignorance he is not conscious that his hands and legs are diffused all over, but when he attains to proper knowledge, he will come to that stage. His thinking is contradictory. This means that the individual soul, having become conditioned by material nature, is not supreme. The Supreme is different from the individual soul. The Supreme Lord can extend his hand without a limit. The individual soul cannot. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that if anyone offers him a flower or a fruit or a little water, he accepts it. If the Lord is a far distance away, how can he accept things? This is the omnipotence of the Lord. Even though he is situated in his own abode, far, far away from earth, he can extend his hand to accept what anyone offers. That is his potency. In the Brahma Samhita 5.37, it is stated, Golak eva nivistati akhilatma bhutaha. Although he is always engaged in pastimes in his transcendental planet, is all-pervading. The individual soul cannot claim that he is all-pervading. Therefore, this verse describes the Supreme Soul, the personality of Godhead, not the individual soul. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Puja Mataji. Thank you. So, Prabhupada, this is actually very strongly putting across quite a few points. So let's start looking at these points. Let me just put it on slideshow. All right. So the first of all, what is happening? Hold on one second. Let me just put it on slideshow so that's better. Current slide. Yeah, that's better. Okay. So Krishna is continuing to answer all the questions that Arjuna has asked. So in the past couple of verses, he has described the Kshetra and Kshetrajna, that is the field of the activities, and knower. Now from the past, from verse number 13, which Divya Gaurangi Mataji did very wonderfully yesterday, she explained so well. So from that, Krishna starts to explain the knowable, the gnayam. What is the knowable, right? So the first point that is being made in the purport, what Prabhupada is explaining is, as the sun exists diffusing its unlimited rays, so does the super soul or supreme personality of Godhead. So as we can see here that the sun is in the sky, but if you keep millions of pots filled with water, you will see the reflection of the sun in all of these millions of pots. But that does not mean that the sun has left the sky. But what is happening over here is the energy of the sun. I'm just going to mute everybody.
Sorry.
That's better. No, that's fine. I'll just mute everybody. Yeah. Yeah. So here you will see that the sun is reflected in each and every pot of water that we have kept here. So the heat and the light of the sun is the energies of the sun, which is what we are experiencing, although the sun is far, far, far away. And the same way Prabhupada is using the analogy that, again, the same thing is happening here, where Krishna, who is the supreme personality of Godhead, but as the super soul, he is present in each and every living entity. Although he does not leave his divine abode, but as the super soul, he is present in each and every living entity. So the analogy of the sun very nicely explains how the sun is so far away, but we can feel the heat and light of the sun. The same way, although Krishna never leaves his abode, but he still manifests and he's still present as the super soul in each of the different universes, and then in each and every living entity that are in all the universes. So that is the first point that Prabhupada is making over here. Now, in this verse, very clearly it's being said that the super soul, everywhere are his hands and legs. There are two ways to understand this. So his hands, his pani, his padam, his akshi, his eyes are everywhere. And I just have one image to show this, like how his hands can be everywhere. Prabhupada in the purport is giving us a very simple example actually. And we all know this verse very nice, very famous, well-known verse number 9.26, where it says, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam Yo Me Bhakta Prayashyati. That is, when we offer to Krishna with love, a leaf, a flower, some water, he accepts it. So the point is, Krishna never leaves his abode. How does then Krishna accept it? And that is what one will understand when one starts to understand how from such a far distance Krishna is able to accept this, because he is Param Brahma, he is unlimited. He is the Vibhu, and he can extend his hands and legs and eyes everywhere if he wishes to do so. Right? Now, some people may think that I am also Brahman because I am also the soul, and which is true, that I am also the eternal soul. I am also part and parcel of Krishna. And because I am part and parcel of Krishna, because I am part of the Param Brahma, that is why I am the Brahma. So once I start understanding myself, then I will understand the Param Brahma, and that is known as self-realization. But to think that I am same as as Lord Krishna, Prabhupada very clearly in the purport says that if the individual soul thinks that I am same, straight away you can see over here when Prabhupada is giving the example, or when he's talking about how the super soul can extend his hands and legs and eyes everywhere. Can I as an individual soul do that? You know, I know lots of yogis get different kind of siddhis where they can become the smaller than the smallest and the bigger than the biggest, but still they cannot do what the super soul, what Lord Krishna can do, right? Like if you take the analogy that the drop of ocean is salty. It is salty because it is part and parcel of the vast ocean which is salty. But if that drop of ocean starts to think that I am the ocean, then that is wrong knowledge, isn't it? Problem here is that because we have very limited knowledge, so we are not able to imagine this vision of Krishna wherein he can extend his hands and legs and eyes everywhere. And Prabhupada gives a very nice analogy and story to explain this. I'm sure most of you must have heard this. He calls it the Dr. Frog philosophy. So the story is that once there was a frog in a little well, and a friend of this frog visited him. This friend obviously was from outside the well, and he was not just within that. So he had a wider vision. And he started talking to him about the Atlantic Ocean. But because the frog in the well has got only limited vision, he has not seen a water body bigger than the well. He has not even seen a lake or a river. How can he imagine the ocean? So same way, if we have only got the vision where we have only seen human beings with two hands and two legs, and the limit of our hands is probably a few feet or something like that, how can we ever imagine that Krishna's hands and legs are everywhere? And that is why we have to take the words of the Shastras and our Acharyas. So Prabhupada calls this, whenever he speaks about this story, and he does talk about this quite often in a few of his lectures, and he calls it the Dr. Frog philosophy. So he says that the frog is simply trying to compare it with his limited space. You know, it may be 4 feet, 5 feet, 10 feet, whatever it is, but he is not able to imagine this how vast the ocean can be. And that is why for us to imagine that is very, very difficult. But we have to take the words of the Shastras, because here in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is explaining how very clearly he's saying the super soul exists in such a way that his hands, legs, eyes, and heads and faces and ears are everywhere. That is one way to understand it. And then the second thing, another very important aspect is, Prabhupada talks in the purport about this, where he says that there are unlimited heads, legs, hands, and eyes, and unlimited living entities. So in the purport of Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto, second chapter, first verse, Prabhupada gives this point very clearly. He says that the Bhagavad Gita asserts that the Lord has his hands, legs, and mouths in every corner of the creation. So this means that the expansions of the differentiated parts and parcels, that means us living entities, all of the expansions, we are actually the hands and legs of Lord Krishna. So important to understand that when we understand that I am not the proprietor of this body, the proprietor is actually Krishna. So this hand is not mine, these legs are not mine, these eyes are not mine, nothing is mine, everything belongs to Krishna. And Prabhupada goes on to explain that because we forget this, because we are forgetful and we don't remember this, that is why we tend to think of ourselves as independent, as separate from Krishna. So once we understand this thing, that we are part and parcel of Krishna, we understand who is Krishna, we understand about his birth, his activities, we understand about the super soul, and that is knowledge. And that is what Krishna is trying to explain to Arjuna what is knowledge, what is the knowable. This understanding is knowable. And elsewhere in the Bhagavad Gita, verse 4.9, Krishna has said this. I'm not sure if we've done chapter 4 here, but this is again a very famous verse where Krishna says, Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tattvata tyaktva deham punarjanma neti mam eti swarjuna. One who understands this, one who understands the birth of Lord Krishna and his activities, then that person will never have to take birth in this material world and in this cycle of birth and death. He goes back to the land of Krishna. That is what Krishna is explaining over here. This purport actually is part of a verse where even Brahma, so it says over here, the conditioned soul, even in the position of a Brahma, forgets things, right? Now the question is that why do we forget things? So very nice analogy and example to understand this is that, you know, when actors are performing on a stage, and when they are absorbed in their character, sometimes they go so deep into it that they forget who they actually are, like their true identity is forgotten. And the more they go deeper into the character, the better the acting is, right? Likewise, if I have come to this material world because I want to enjoy separately from the Lord, if I would remember that I am the spirit soul and I am not this body, then I would not be able to enjoy. And that is why I have to forget these things. And that is why Krishna is giving me this forgetfulness, like we did in the 15th chapter, 15th verse, where it says, Sarvasya chaham riddhi sannivishto mata smritir jnanam apohanam cha vedescha sarvam aham eva vedyo Vedanta krit veda vid eva chaham. So Krishna is saying that I am seated in everybody's heart, and from me comes forgetfulness and remembrance. Now, obviously, because we have decided to enjoy this material world independently, so Krishna is making us forget this thing. But at the same time, his advice is that do not get entangled. Do not get entangled in this material world. So then the question comes. So yeah, this is just a picture of showing how unlimited heads, legs, hands, and eyes is because we all part and parcels are there. So my question is, why is the super soul allowing us to forget? Any thoughts on this? I already said yes, because we wanted to enjoy, but why? Why does he allow us to forget this? Anybody?
Because he is the cause of all causes.
Yes, but
Because
then,
we have very limited free will. We don't have,
see, yes, and the thing is,
I think Mataji, we have come here to. I mean, Krishna lets us forget because we have our desires.
yes, we have our desires. Krishna is not happy that we want to enjoy independently, but at the same time, Krishna will never force us to love him. Love cannot be forced. You see, that is why he's giving us this opportunity. He says, okay, you want to enjoy independently. I'm giving you this opportunity, but still, lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, he keeps trying. He keeps trying. He keeps sending his messengers, his avatars. You know, he keeps trying to make us turn towards him. Now, the fact is that, like Bhagavati Mataji said, that Krishna is the cause of all causes. If he decides in one day, he can make all of us, you know, turn towards him and surrender to him. But the point is that love can never be forced. Love has to come naturally. And that is why he's giving us so many different opportunities to understand this. And then with our own self, after understanding this and surrendering and then realizing, turn towards him, because that is what love is. And that is what he wants, right? So that's why he's giving us this. And obviously, once we have come to this world, and if we don't forget that we are the soul, then we will not be able to enjoy. But he's giving us these opportunities to then remove this layer of dust from our heart and realize that we are spirit soul, part and parcel of Krishna. We don't belong in this material world. We belong back with him in the spiritual world, right? So what I wanted to also do was like a comparison where, like I said, we have two ways where we can understand this verse. So one was where we spoke about how Krishna's, the super soul's hands and legs and eyes and heads are extending everywhere. And the other is that because his part and parcel, which is the living entities, are spread everywhere, so that way also his hands, legs, eyes and hands are everywhere. So we have seen in the 11th chapter when Krishna shows his universal form to Arjuna, at that time what Arjuna sees is the number of hands. So he talks about many hands, many legs, many heads. So at that time, what is being spoken about is aneka, many. But over here, what is being spoken about is sarvataha. Sarvataha means everywhere. So try and understand these two different aspects, because when you say that there are so many people and when you say that there are people everywhere, it does not mean the same thing. You see, in this way, the super soul is pervading everywhere. In all ways, the super soul is pervading everywhere, isn't it? And here in this verse, what is also coming across is that Krishna as a person, as an individual, has his hands and legs which can go everywhere. So again, two aspects. One is that when he is entering each and every living entity as the super soul. And the other is himself, he is spreading, he's able to extend his hands and legs everywhere. So these two aspects, one needs to kind of understand this. Yeah.
Madhu Mataji,
Yes.
is
Yes.
it something like his internal, external potencies? Is it?
When you talk about his extension of his hands and legs, yes, you could call it his potency.
External.
But the thing is, when we talk about internal and external potency, we normally talk about spiritual and material.
Yeah, okay.
Right?
It's manifestation, okay.
Exactly. So that there's a very slight difference, but you could say that in this case, what he's talking about now, because Krishna's body obviously is not material, his body is spiritual, and because it is spiritual, see, the thing is, what is happening in the Bhagavad Gita is that Krishna is trying to explain his body in so many different ways. Like in the past, in the previous verses, we saw a very impersonal way of thinking about Krishna. Like when Krishna says that, the mountains are so and so parts of my body, the trees are this, the sun and moon are my eyes. So this was an impersonal conception. And like we have discussed in the past also, that there are so many stages of realizing the absolute truth. There is nothing wrong with all of these stages. There are 3 stages, as we have discussed in the past, which is the Brahman realization, the Paramatma, and the Bhagwan realization.
Yeah.
Right? Now, there is nothing right or wrong in any of the realizations, but as we all know, due to Prabhupada's mercy, we've understood that the Bhagwan realization is the complete realization. See? So that is why if you see in the Bhagavad Gita, there are various descriptions of Krishna's body. Sometimes he talks about the universal form, which is like an impersonal and temporary form. And there are other times when he talks about when Arjuna desires to see his 2-armed form. There are times when Krishna also shows the 4-armed form. And here Krishna is then talking about how his arms, his 2-armed form, but they can extend everywhere.
Yeah. Okay.
There's just different depictions of this the Supreme Personality and of the Super Soul actually. But Super Soul, of course, is Krishna, like that.
Thank you.
Hope that makes sense.
It does. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. I'm just trying to cover everything that that Prabhupada has covered in his purport, and I'm going a little bit quick today because a very special day, and we are going to discuss a very special personality. So, a couple of minutes. So yeah, so then the other point that Prabhupada is making is that he is always engaged in pastimes in his transcendental planet. And he quotes the Brahma Samhita 5.37. Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhava Vitabis Tabhirya Eva Nijarupataya Kalabhi Goloka Eva Nivashati Akhilatatma Bhuto Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So he's saying that I worship Govinda. Sorry, 1 second. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, residing in his own realm Goloka with Radha, resembling his own spiritual figure, the embodiment of the ecstatic potency possessed of the 64 artistic activities in the company of her confidants, Sakhis, embodiments of the extensions of a bodily form, permeated and vitalized by his ever blissful spiritual rasa. So what Prabhupada is trying to what he's trying to tell us here is that Krishna does not ever leave his transcendental planet. And he is constantly engaged in his beautiful pastimes with Srimati Radharani and the other Sakhis. But at the same time, because he is omnipotent, because he is everywhere, he can be everywhere, at the same time, he is with all of us also as the super soul. And that is what Prabhupada is trying to highlight over here. This entire verse and the purport, what Prabhupada is explaining to us, and very important for us to understand, is that herein is the characteristics of the super soul, not the individual soul. And that is why, in conclusion, the last sentence, he says that this verse describes the super soul, not the individual soul. And I'm sure after seeing all the characteristics, all of us will realize that this is not the individual soul. Like when I gave the example of the drop of water from the ocean, it may have the same characteristics of the ocean, but it is not the ocean. And thus we have the same characteristics of the Lord, because we are part of Lord. But in terms of quantity, we are not the Supreme Lord. And that is what is being explained in this verse. I hope that the points in this verse is clear. If yes, then we can move on, or maybe what we could do is discuss the verse a little bit and then go on to talk about what we want to talk about. Any comments, any questions?
Just can I ask one thing, Mataji?
Mhm.
When
Yeah.
Krishna says his hands, feet, eyes are everywhere, that's one thing. And the second thing is that he himself is everywhere as a super soul. Is
Yeah.
it correct understanding?
Yes, that is the correct understanding.
Okay.
Is the correct understanding. Yes.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yes.
There is one question, like in Bhagavad Gita 2.24, it says the soul, I think it says, the individual soul is unbreakable and insoluble and can be neither burned nor dried. He is everlasting, present everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same.
Correct.
Does it like, it's talking about the individual soul, but the super soul is kind of immovable because he is present everywhere, isn't it?
But even the individual soul, like we just discussed, that if you think about the like the gold And a small piece of gold and a huge gold mine, if you see the characteristics of the gold, the huge gold mine, it'll have the same characteristics. The soul is exactly like the super soul in the sense that it also is eternal, full of bliss and knowledge. It cannot be cut into pieces, it cannot be made wet, it does not die, it is never born, it is eternal.
Yes.
Same like the super soul. The only difference is that the individual soul is not all pervading like the super soul. The super soul is all pervading. And in the previous verses, like how we were discussing the Kshetragna, meaning the knower, the individual soul or this body can know only the activities of this particular body. My soul, which is engaged in this body, will know the activities of only this body. If I'm feeling hurt, if somebody pinches me, only I will know that hurt. You will not know it. Whereas the super soul, because the super soul is all pervading, he will know everything that is happening to everybody.
Yeah.
So that is the difference between the soul and the super soul. But in nature, in ways, we are exactly like the super soul in terms of the quality, not the quantity.
Yeah. Okay. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments? If
Hare
not,
Krishna, Madhu Kumari.
Hare Krishna, Palika Mataji.
Hi, the class is so wonderful. You started with the sunshine and the sunshine and the sun particle, and then he went so much elaboration of making one point. You made it so clear, and it's really wonderful.
Thank
I
you,
just-
Mataji. All Prabhupada's mercy and Guru Maharaj's honor, and all of you Vaishnavas. That's it. I'm only
it is.
repeating what I read. That's it.
But some people understand better than, but you have more mercy from your Guru Maharaj. So to elaborate, to make it so clear to us.
More
So
mercy from you
there's-
all.
there's no doubt in our mind that we didn't understand. You made us understand very, very well. Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Madhu.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
If no further questions on this verse, I'll be honest with you. I was thinking about these two ways of understanding this verse. I took some time to kind of understand it in a way that I could explain to you all. So I am glad that you have all understood it. So if there are no questions and comments, then we will move on to, I'm sure most of you know today is the most auspicious day of disappearance day of Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj. Now,
Yes.
yeah, so I think majority of us are aware of who Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj was. But if there are people who are not aware, then let's just talk a little bit about this. First of all, Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj is the spiritual master of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, who is the spiritual master of Srila Prabhupada. So in that way, Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj is the grand spiritual master of Prabhupada. I don't know if many of you heard the class this morning given by Her Grace Vishaka Mataji.
Vishaka Mataji.
Yeah, it was a wonderful class where she spoke a lot
Wonderful.
about.
It was.
Yeah,
It was.
yeah. So I will not go too much into detail because there is a lot that one could cover, but let's just a little bit about Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj. So Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj was born in a Vaishya family, and initially he used to make his living by farming, and his name at that time was Vamsi Das, and he was married. He had a wife, and he lived according to the principles of the scriptures, and his wife was very chaste, and he was living a nice simple family life. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, at the age of 29 his wife left her body, And at that time, breaking off all attachments from family and whatever, he moved to Vrindavan. And in Vrindavan, he led a life of complete renunciation. He was not attached to anything at all, neither to material things, nor to any kind of name or fame or anything. What I heard from the class this morning was that, or I read it somewhere, I can't remember, that even for his to cover himself, what he would do is, the cloth that he would use is, he would go to the place where the funeral rites are done, and he would take the cloth used to cover the dead body, wash that cloth and use that for himself. He was so renounced. He would go to 7 houses. He lived by begging for food, which is called madhukari. He would not, and that too, he would not take things from just one house, because a lot of renunciates believe that one must not give trouble to just one family. Because imagine if just one family has to provide for you, because you know that in India, even today, of course, in olden times, if a sannyasi or a babaji came to your doorstep to ask for alms, then you would never refuse. But these sannyasis, they were such compassionate towards people that they wouldn't want to give pressure to just one family. So Babaji Maharaj would beg from 7 houses, around 7 houses, and that is how he would survive. And then after living in Vrindavan for many years, he then moved to to Navadvip. And in Navadvip also, he was always in ecstasy. And they say that the only possessions he had was his neck beads and the beads that he chanted on. And sometimes if he didn't even have the beads to chant on, he made beads out of cloth. He was so renounced. And in Navadvip, he would very often go to Bhaktivinoda Thakur's house. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is the father of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And he would go to Bhaktivinod's house, and he would listen to the Bhagavad Katha and the Srimad Bhagavatam that would be spoken by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And it was Bhaktivinoda Thakur who actually said to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, his own son, that you must take initiation from Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj. Now, Babaji Maharaj was so renounced that he thought, he was so humble that he never ever wanted any kind of fame, or he didn't want people to know him. In fact, very famous story about him is that he wanted materialistic people to stay away from him, because in India or elsewhere, I think, is when you see sannyasis or renounced people, the norm is that you go and pray to them, and you might touch their feet and whatever, and ask for materialistic benedictions. And because Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj did not want to get involved with this, in order to avoid such people, it is said that he would go and do his japa and his meditation in a place where people passed stool. So imagine that place would be so dirty and smelly, but he would actually just be there so that people would not trouble him. So that is how much renounced he was. So when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur requested him that I want to take initiation from you, the first day he replied that I will ask Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then the next day, when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur asked him again, he said, oh, I forgot to ask. And so like that, he kept delaying the thing for quite a long time. And finally, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said to him that if you don't take me as your disciple, I do not see any meaning to my life, and I will just give away my life. And so after a lot of, it was not just straightforward, but after that he accepted him as his disciple. And in fact, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was his only disciple. He did not have any other disciples. What more can I speak about him? Yes, he was completely renounced.
He was blind as well.
Yes, another very, very important thing also is that he was not educated. He was not like he couldn't even read. He was not like, that of course he became blind afterwards. When he became very old, he became blind as well, but he was not even educated. So Prabhupada makes a very nice, when he's talking about Babaji Maharaj, he says that, understanding and realizing Krishna does not come only from reading great scriptures and from within. Krishna is within you. And for Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, from within, Krishna would always guide him. And that was a wonderful thing to also realize, that at the same time, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was such a learned scholar. He knew all the Bhagavad Gita verses when he was just a young child. So he was such a learned scholar, but he still took the shelter of Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj. You see? And then there was one incident once when Babaji Maharaj reached the place of Mahaprabhu's birth place. What is that called? Oh, I can't remember it. In Navdeep, the place where Mahaprabhu took birth, under that tree. I can't remember what it is called.
Yogpit.
Yogpit. Thank you very much. Thank you. So he reached there in the dead of night at 2 o'clock, right? 2:30 he reached there. And the next morning, when Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur saw him, he asked him, who got you? Like, how did you come here? Because at that time he was blind. So he was really surprised. And Babaji Maharaj, in a very amused way, he said, somebody got me here. And then, Bhakti Siddhanta pursued. He kept asking, but you live across the river. You had to cross the river and come here. Who was the boatman who made you cross the river and whatever? And again, in a very amused way, Babaji Maharaj just said, yeah, it was somebody who got me here. And then eventually Bhakti Siddhanta realized that it was none other than Mahaprabhu, who led Babaji Maharaj to this to the Yogpit. So that way, Babaji Maharaj was very, very renounced, and he was very fond of listening to Bhakti Vinod Thakur. And that is how, if you see our Guru Parampara, I have on purpose put this picture also over here. So the extreme left of my hand. So here is Srila Prabhupada, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, Bhakti Vinod Thakur, and complete right is Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj. So that way, just a little bit about Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, but I would request other senior devotees, if you would please like to add something, because there's so much to talk about Babaji Maharaj. So if there's something that you would like to add, please go ahead.
Madhu Mataji, you have covered all the points. Wonderful.
Oh,
Wonderful.
thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Palika Mataji, is there anything from this morning that I may have forgotten or you want to add?
Hare Krishna, Madhu Kumari. Only thing I remember about Vishaka Mataji saying about his samadhi, because what happened when he left his body, the other Babaji, they thought they knew that how elevated he was. So they thought if they have a samadhi in their mandir, they would earn some money and our Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati did not like this idea, because he then said, whoever is, because he said, I am Naishtika Brahmachari from the birth. And then he says that if anybody can claim they were Naishtika Brahmachari for this time, they can have the Samadhi, and nobody came forward.
Yeah, yeah.
Nobody. So then he made Babaji's Samadhi Mandir. Nobody was allowed to take his body and make the Samadhi. So that was very profound information.
Yeah,
We didn't
also,
have.
yeah, thank you, Palika Mataji, for sharing. And also at the same time, the interesting thing was that when Bhaktisiddhanta was asked, how will you know that the
Yes.
people who are, whether they are telling you the truth? And he said that I will take their word for it. And that was amazing reply, amazing
Yes,
reply.
true. Yes, thank
Yeah,
you.
and also then there was another point about, where Babaji Maharaj, because he was so humble, he said that once I leave my body should be dragged on the dust of Navadvip.
Yes, yes.
But Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj obviously said that, that is not literally how we do it, because, and then he gave the example of how Mahaprabhu took Haridas Thakur's body
Haridas
and
Thakur's body,
danced
yes.
with it. So yeah. So yeah, I mean, a very, very elevated soul, Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj. And obviously, in the morning's class, then it was also said that we cannot copy or we cannot imitate this kind of renunciation. But the point here is that what is it that we should think we should detach ourselves from? And a lot of times there is this confusion that when we talk about detaching from family or detaching from things, it does not mean that you stop fulfilling your duties and responsibilities. What it obviously means is that you change your consciousness towards your duties and responsibilities. The main thing is that we change our consciousness. That is the main thing, that whatever you are doing is an offering to Krishna, and your family also is Krishna's family. So what you're doing is just an offering to Krishna, and that is how you become detached. Because when you become detached like that and you perform all your activities as an offering, then you are not worried about the results, because then the results is in Krishna's control. Anyways, everything is in Krishna's control. So
Absolutely, absolutely.
okay. Thank you.
That is the message.
Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions or corrections?
You made it very clear today, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Palika Mataji. Anybody else? Any other members? I hope some of the new members also can talk, say things. It's nice to have everybody interacting. Or if you have any questions, some people private message me if they have questions, which is fine. I'm very happy to receive any questions, and I will try my best to reply to your questions.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Yes.
I just have a little realization. When earlier you were talking about that Krishna's hands are everywhere. Sometimes, like you can say that is his hand, or maybe that because he is in everybody, so his hands are in everywhere. So in the same way, sometimes what happens if we are kind of distressed and we need some help, but we don't know how to and who to ask for. But all of a sudden, someone comes and gives us the help. So if it's the same way that we just think, oh, Krishna sent this person, and it's Krishna's hand. So it's the same thing, isn't it?
Yes, yes. You know what I have realized, Seema Mataji, in my own journey of Krishna consciousness is that Krishna is with each and every one of us. But because of the mercy of the devotees and our gurus and Prabhupada, what happens is we learn to see this and understand it. It's not that he was not with us before we became Krishna conscious. He is with us at all times. It is only because of the association of devotees, by reading, by understanding, we are able to then realize that, oh, this is actually Krishna. That's the difference between coming to Krishna consciousness and before we came to Krishna consciousness. What we need to realize is that all of us inherently are Krishna conscious. The only thing is that it is not manifested, but it's there. It's there because we all are souls. We all are part of Krishna.
Yes, that's right.
Thank you.
Mataji.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Madhu Kumari Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Krishnavani Mataji.
Mataji, just remembered one point about Gaurki Suradas Babaji Maharaj, that he was so renounced that he never had a house. But then when the, like in India, when we have monsoon season, then what he does is, the boat, he makes it upside down and then he sits underneath and chant his rounds.
Wow.
So that's why he was so renounced.
Yeah,
And
wow.
also, when he left his body, I don't know if I remember exactly that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, maybe he was not around at that time. So I don't know if I'm wrong, then please correct me. But I think his hand or something was, he had a fist closed. And so then when he left, I think he had two desires. Like as you explained that all the devotees then, because he said that his body has to be dragged and all this thing. So all his disciples were ready to do that. And when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he came and he stopped them. And he said, like only the person who is pure, and like is a Naistik Brahmachari, and then that only person can touch this body. So none of them, if they have not, associated with women and all these things, he put the point. So none of them, came forward. And then Bhaktisiddhanta says, I think he took a promise that he will take sannyas and something else. And then his hand opens up. So I don't know.
I think
wrong.
Krishnavani Mataji, I think, I think I could be wrong, but what I think is probably there is a confusion because this fist closed is about Ramanujacharya.
Okay.
Yes, because that is a story where, one of his disciples, he was not present when he left his body. And when he reached there, because he had two wishes, one was that he should become the next Acharya of that mutt. So if I'm not mistaken, I will look this up, but if I'm not mistaken, it is that.
Yeah, maybe I might be mixing up.
Yeah, no, I will send it to you privately because I remember this story because I have read this story a couple of times. Gokaran and
yeah, but then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he proven his, right.
Oh yes, oh yes.
What you call.
Yes.
So then he performed his final rites.
Yes.
Means he.
Yes, that's right. Yes. Thank you for sharing. Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
The word samadhi, as far as I understand, it's like you reached a certain level of meditation, a very high stage, where, you go into samadhi in like almost like a trance-like stage. But when you say someone is departed and they are in samadhi, what exactly does that? I am a little confused about that.
Okay, I will answer to the best of my understanding, but if there are others who know more about this, what I understand is that, normally when a person leaves the body, then we have the funeral and, there is we burn the body and, all that happens. But in the case of such exalted sannyasis and such exalted devotees, that does not happen. The body is not, it's not the same thing that we do for a normal body is not done. And actually, they are put in a samadhi. So the body is still there. And you have like, because in the case of, I know that for Prabhupada that was done, and I guess for Haridas Thakur that was done, where you dig the mud, because for Haridas Thakur it was done on the shore of the Jagannath Puri beach. It was done there, and then you put the body in there, and then you build on top of it.
Okay, so the body isn't
yes.
The body isn't
yes.
They don't burn the body, cremate the body or so like the normal way.
Yes, I mean, this is my understanding. If there's anybody else who knows more, but this is what I understand.
Mataji, I was listening to Srila Prabhupada's lecture, and Srila Prabhupada was also saying that, normal Hindus, we get cremated, but this sannyasi's body, they don't cremate, but sannyasi's body, they put it into samadhi.
Yeah. So that
and
is the
Guru Maharaj's, body, they also put it into samadhi, because that's what, sannyasi's body they do.
Yes. So Premila Mataji, that is one kind of samadhi where obviously where the soul has departed. But then we also talk about samadhi in another sense where, somebody is in deep meditation and we say that this person is in samadhi because he is in such deep meditation.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you so much.
No problem. No problem. Anybody else? I know it's quite late. It's almost 5 to 9. So
can I just say one thing about the samadhi thing, Mataji?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Prabhuji, I'm not sure who is speaking because it's only NP that comes up.
Sure, it's somebody's laptop that we're using here, but from my small little understanding is with regards to the samadhi, it's not like a ritual that any sannyasi is afforded that right. It's more based on the fact that collectively, like you mentioned the word mat before, it's come to an understanding that this is a self-realized soul. So their body is no longer material. It's completely achintya, spiritual.
Yes.
So therefore it purifies the ground and anybody who's in touch with it, even by sight.
Wow.
So therefore it's preserved, and then that place becomes a tirtha and it has spiritual potency for at least 100 years.
Yeah, and I believe, if I'm not wrong, a lot of our ISKCON gurus, we have got samadhis for a lot of our ISKCON gurus in Vrindavan and in Mayapur.
That's right, yeah. I think so.
Yeah, because we have for Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, and I know that now, of course, for Bhakti Charu Maharaj, and so yeah, we do have for the gurus, yeah.
Because they are all spiritually qualified. That's why.
Correct. Okay. All right.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Rita Mataji here.
Yes,
I just want to ask you one thing. When the Guruji's like Prabhupada's Samadhi, is it in Mayapur or Vrindavan? Because I went to Mayapur, there is a Samadhi. Is it in Mayapur or in Vrindavan?
So the actual Samadhi is in Vrindavan, but there is also Pushpa Samadhi in Mayapur.
Mayapur, okay. All right. That's and where is the Samadhi of Bhakti Charu Swamiji?
So
I've forgotten.
It's going to be in Mayapur, His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj, yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Because Prabhupada left his body in Vrindavan, so his Samadhi is in Vrindavan, but then we also have a Pushpa Samadhi in Mayapur.
Mayapur. What's a Pushpa Samadhi?
So I'm not expert on this question, but what I believe is that like how we like how we have deities installed, and so that it gives a place for people to approach the samadhi of such a figure. So like that, because of course the body is in Vrindavan, so then you have like what do you say, not how would you call that, just flowers, just made of like not the actual body, but just a place for devotees to kind of feel his presence, because Prabhupada obviously is present with all of us every time. So that way.
Mataji, the flowers on the body, the garland and everything.
That's what I thought.
Body, so that flowers, they took it, and those flowers, they put it in Samadhi, and the actual body is...
actual body is in Vrindavan, yeah. That's what I thought. Okay. So flowers they took. Okay. This I didn't know. Thank you, Krishnavani Mataji. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Thank you, Meena Kumari ji.
Any other comments? Because I'm not very clear about samadhis and that. Maybe the other Prabhuji who just spoke, I don't know your name, Prabhuji, NP Prabhuji.
Was it NP Prabhuji? Yes.
Prabhuji. Any further comments? If not, then I think we can end our class. It's almost 9. If nobody has any other burning questions or comments.
Mataji, can I have your private number on the group, maybe on the BG group with the chat group, so I can
My
talk
number
to
is
you privately?
my number is on there, but I will send you a message, Mataji.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, thank
My
you
number
very
is on
much.
the group, but yeah, I will send you a message.
Okay.
Thank you to all of you for joining. You join every day, and that is such wonderful commitment. And I hope that all of your Kartik month is going very nicely, wonderfully. It's the last week, and from tomorrow, it's Bhishma Panchak is starting. So that's another auspicious time to do more and more devotional service. And thank you all for giving me the opportunity. Vancha kalpatrubhascha
Vaishnavebhyo namo namah.
Thank you so much, Mataji.
Thank you
Hare
so much,
Thank you,
Mataji. It was
Mataji.
wonderful.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you
Hare
for
Krishna,
Wonderful
Mataji.
class. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Hare Krishna.
Mataji, thank you.
Mataji.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank
Hare
you, ma'am.
Krishna, Mataji. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.